It's being reported nationally that the Nuggets have, in fact, sat down with Mike D'Antoni this last Tuesday, a couple of days ago, in L.A. to talk to him about the head coaching vacancy. Why it hasn't happened yet, I don't know. Mike D'Antoni has been out of work. Melvin Hunt has been waiting to hear. Mike Malone has been out of work. All these guys are out there, yet the Nuggets are taking their sweet time. I don't understand why they're taking so much time, but they're taking their time. Finally, we hear that they're talking with D'Antoni.
I'd like to speak to everyone that's watching the show that is staying home today because you're out of work. If you're out of work for a living, contact the Denver Nuggets. They're talking to a lot of people out of work. You may have a chance to get the job. Didn't you find that there was some theme in what you said? They're talking to Mike D'Antoni, who's out of work. They're talking to Malone, who's out of work. They're talking to Melvin Hunt, who's going to be out of work.
How real do you think the D'Antoni thing is?
Wouldn't it have been nice? You know, what is it with the local teams? Wouldn't it have been nice if you talked to somebody that somebody else wanted? I mean, think about that for a moment. Scotty Brooks decided he'd rather not coach than coach the Denver Nuggets. Thibodeau hasn't expressed any interest.
With him, yeah.
Orlando's hired a coach. New Orleans hired a coach. Oklahoma City Thunder's hired a coach. Who else who's on the Rockies, the Nuggets radar? We've heard Mike Woodson. He's out of work. Is there anybody that actually works that they could actually talk to? Give me a break.
All right, what do you make of the D'Antoni meeting?
Well, you've talked about it before. Stan Kroenke has a very close ally, a guy who has always been around.
I call him the basketball whisperer, lurking in the shadows. Brett Barrett is his name.
Barrett, and
he used to be part of the triumvirate that ran this team
but
when Carmelo was here. It was Brett
was
Barrett,
never in the press
It was
guide.
Mark Warkentine. Yeah, he was lurking in the shadows of the press guy too. It was Barrett, it was Mark Warkentine, and it was Rex Chapman. Those three guys ran the franchise.
I mean, I used to talk to him in the back hallways where he stayed. He lurked.
Yeah.
You know, I don't mean that in the worst way in the world, but he lurked behind the scenes.
He hung around.
What is his background that makes him such a horse whisperer?
I believe it's financial. I believe his background is financial.
Well, why don't they talk to me and you? I mean, we have as much background in basketball as he does, I think, a lot more. So Stan has always listened to Brett in regard to decisions he made. Even one that probably said, fire me, because Brett disappeared. And he shows up on occasion.
Well, it makes you wonder how involved Josh Kroenke is. He's the governor of the team and allegedly running the team on a day-to-day basis, and how involved the general manager, Tim Conley, is. I'm guessing they have some input. Conley sat with D'Antoni in L.A. They wanted Tim, obviously, to get a feel for D'Antoni and come back with his input. But it's a very odd situation. I did some homework on D'Antoni. I have felt all along that D'Antoni was the favorite, at least of Stan Kroenke and Brett Barrett. Okay, so now that
before
I've heard,
you do your homework, do you think if they make Mike D'Antoni the choice, that will get people in Denver excited about basketball here again?
More excited than Melvin Hunt or Mike Malone or Mike Woodson. Now, Phil Jackson excited? No, of course not.
Or Seth Blatter.
Seth Blatter excited? I doubt it. So when I heard about the meeting on Tuesday with D'Antoni, I started doing some homework because I know he has a number of detractors. There are a lot of people out there who don't want Mike D'Antoni. They feel he didn't do a good job in New York, he didn't do a good job in L.A., and we'll talk about
you talk about
that
detractors here? I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about him here.
Well, I think there are a number of detractors who feel he's a retread, to use that word, and who feel that he did fail in New York and he did fail in L.A., and they don't want him here. So let me just tell you.
Homework.
Yeah. All right. So this is from ESPN, ESPN.com. And I'm paraphrasing here. The increased pace of play and the increase in shooting and scoring in the NBA has D'Antoni's fingerprints all over it, even though his Phoenix Suns teams never won a championship. Of course, it's also pointed out that the Spurs, a dynasty, a team for the ages, ended the Suns' playoff runs in 3 of those 4 years that D'Antoni was there. Miami Heat coach Eric Spoelstra, he went to D'Antoni and credited him in part for one of the Heat's titles with LeBron James, because, Spoelstra says, they played D'Antoni's style, fast pace, lots of threes, and that's what turned the Heat season around, and they went on to win an NBA championship. So there are a lot of people in this league who appreciate what Mike D'Antoni has done, and I believe it would be a good choice if, in fact, he is the choice eventually.
Don't you think, though, that this goes back more to Larry Brown, Doug Moe, the Boston Celtics, even Paul Westhead, who didn't succeed here in the NBA.
Fast pace running
but
the court.
He did win a championship in Los Angeles with the Lakers. I don't know if you remember that, but he did. Got fired after 1 year as the head coach there. He took over for the coach that hurt himself in a bicycle accident and had a brain injury, and Paul Westhead took over for him.
Sure.
Paul Westhead was very
he inherited
successful.
a team with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah, and he won. But here, it wasn't very successful with Dikembe Mutombo at all.
Right. It was a joke, frankly.
So I hear that. Steve Nash, and I mentioned this earlier in the week, Steve Nash, when he retired, said Mike D'Antoni changed basketball.
Yeah.
That he created this. Well, I just find it funny. I like Mike D'Antoni. I would be happy with that choice. I would support that choice, given what the landscape of coaches is out there. But Mike D'Antoni is suddenly the guru of running basketball. The Celtics were doing it very successfully in the 60s and 70s. The Nuggets were doing it in the 70s and 80s. And Dan Issel did it, and George Karl came along and was doing it. So I don't know that it's just Mike D'Antoni's the only guy. I mean, there were two people.
He tweaked it.
There were two people that actually discovered electricity and how to create a light bulb, and that was Edison and Tesla. And Edison gets all of the credit. Tesla was actually the guy that created the way that lights are operating in this world.
And they named a car after him. That first segment brought to you by the Harmony Foundation, Colorado's premier treatment program for drug and alcohol addiction. They are located just outside of Estes Park. They're located on a private 45-acre mountain campus. They are insurance friendly. So visit harmonyfoundationinc.com.